coming out of me here just yet. I had a fully formed thing in my head and it just didn't come out of my mouth.
Well, you were saying about the idea of a rebirth every 7 years. I've made it sound much more fantastical than you were describing it.
You definitely you played that up a little bit. Although I feel like I need to get the exact information that I'm thinking about. And I don't even know if this is something that's like scientific or something that I just read on the internet. But it's that like life is split into 10 7-year cycles. So it's like you have 3 cycles of like adolescence, which takes you up to being like 21. And then you have 3 cycles of like your mid-adulthood, which takes you through to like middle age. And then you have 3 cycles after that of sort of like your more senior years. And then there's another 7-year one in there somewhere as well.
Well, I find that you've made it sound less likely than for me to agree with it than I previously had. Because I don't think you can split up the years between 0 and 21 into 7s in any way, shape or form. Like 0 to 7, quite a lot happens there. And 7 to 14, quite a lot happens there. You know?
Yeah, but I think that is the point. Let me see. The 7-year...
the point.
the AI overview says, the idea of 7-year cycles in life refers to a concept suggested human development and life experience can be understood through a series of 7-year periods, each with unique themes and challenges. Not a universally accepted theory, but it's explored in various fields like traditional Chinese medicine, astrology, philosophy. So I think it was the philosophy one I was thinking of. Rudolf Steiner is the guy. The philosopher Rudolf Steiner proposed a theory of human development based on 10 7-year cycles, each presenting unique lessons and challenges. But you were also saying about the other stuff like the cell replacement and stuff that also shows up in this.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, this is what I'm trying. My two-prong approach here in my head is that I quite like. Obviously, this isn't exactly scientific. Now that you've said the things that it's behind with philosophy and everything else, but you know, I'm more about vibes. But like, you know, I can see like every 7 years of my life to date. Mm-hmm. You know, which I've had 5 of them. I can see very, very clear differences between me 7 years ago and me now.
Yeah,
every time. Mm-hmm. You know. And I didn't know about this as a philosophical argument. I only ever really knew about it as the Marilyn Monroe movie. Was it Marilyn Monroe? Was it somebody else? The 7-Year Itch? When was that? Who did that film?
Is that Marilyn Monroe? I feel like Marilyn Monroe's pretty... Or maybe it was a remake that came out recently.
No, I'm talking about the old movie. The old movie, like it was from like the 40s or whatever.
Oh,
the 7-Year Itch. And the concept of that obviously is that, you know, 7 years into a relationship, you know, you want to get out of it.
You want to change every 7 years or something like that.
And, you know, that's definitely something. And I understand that to an extent, but I haven't felt that sort of want or need in my last, you know, 7 years, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's maybe got an overlapping thing that, you know, people are sort of touching on that every 7 years there is some kind of change, but it's hard to pin down what it is. Some people, you know, think it's a relationship thing. It's a 7-year itch. I suppose if the most important thing in your life is your relationships, and every 7 years you feel like you're changing into someone else or they're changing into someone else, and you know that could maybe be what they're talking about here, influencing the relationship, because you have 2 people traveling down life together is essentially what a relationship is. You say, right, we're going to build a life together. But then if you're starting to diverge after 7 years, you know?
I think that's the difference in a good relationship and that is that you should really, you're both going to change in every 7-year cycle, but you should really be changing almost together. Mm-hmm. And that's what a good relationship looks like, I feel like.
Yeah, there's different people look at it in different ways. I think you definitely need to be more together than you are different, you know. Yeah. But I think having space for your own unique developments as well is important.
No, I'm not saying that there's change in the exact same ways towards the same things, but they're complementary.
Yeah,
it's a complementary change, I'm saying.
Yeah, I found the different 7-year cycles here of that guy Steiner. Do you want me? I'll quickly jump through it. There's like a lot of explanation here, but I'll just give you the the cliff notes of it. So from ages 0 to 7 is from oneness with the mother to growing autonomy. So it's going from being completely reliant on your parents to, you know, even when you're 7, you're still obviously
very reliant.
completely reliant, but you're not like, you know, completely everything is about, you know, you got friends and school and all that
You
kind
got your
of
own semblance of independence here and there.
And then from age 7 to 14, they call it a fight for and commitment to life. So it's about huge energetic shifts in the body's life force. And, you know, that's when a lot of people start to get like, you know, proper sicknesses for the first time, childhood illnesses.
I don't know a lot of energetic 14-year-olds.
Well, 14 is whenever it changes again. So 14 to 21 is wild emotions, raging hormones, and sexuality is what that 7-year period is defined as.
This is something like I was a bit of a wild emotion, raging hormone 14-year-old.
I think all 14-year-olds are.
But like they all seem to be so aloof. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think a lot of that is
masking.
Yeah, a lot of it's show, because whenever you are that age, you're trying to find out who you are. You know, and you're trying on a lot of different hats. You're trying to see, do I like this, do I like that? And you're kind of feeling out what the adult is that you're going to become. And you don't quite know what that is, but you know you're not the child you were. So it's that transitional stage of, I think, is where a lot of people feel like they have to just act like they're too cool for school because they don't really know their ass from their elbow, and they're just kind of
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, they're faking it until they make it. Essentially, is what you do when you're a teenager. So, and then every other teenager is doing that. So you're seeing all these other people acting all too cool for school. So it's like a competition to see who can be the more, you know,
too cool for school.
Yeah,
who can be the coolest.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh, don't like that at all.
I know, but it's part of it. It's part of life, and we all go through it.
I don't think I did, though. I'm saying I don't think I went through that personally. Is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. Maybe ask your parents. You might get a different answer.
No, they would tell you the same. I was always too crazy. I was never aloof. I was never too cool.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a fair point. You want me to jump through the rest of these very quickly?
I just want to know where we're at now more than anything else. What are we meant to be doing now at this stage, from 35 to 42 or whatever?
All right, well, I'm almost there. We'll jump through. So age 21 to 28 is play that turns towards responsibility. So that's when you're still just doing fuck all of your life. But you're starting to have a full-time job.
Some people didn't have kids when they were 21, 22.
No,
we didn't have.
Yeah, me and you went straight to
responsibility.
It's like that 1 year from being 21. I feel like I aged about 15 years.
Exactly.
And everybody else around me just stayed the same age, and I was suddenly
that was the problem.
I had a full-time job and left university, you know, just get into the whole dead end thing. Had a wee young baby, you know, loveless relationship, the whole shebang.
The whole shebang, yeah.
I went for it.
And the whole whack.
Yeah. Ages 28 to 35, the body in full bloom. So I think that's.
So I'm out of bloom now.
You're out of bloom. We're both out of bloom. Ages 35 to 42, crisis of questioning.
And that's when you start a podcast.
That's when you start a podcast, yeah. You go, am I happy in my career? You know? I'm too young to be an influencer. No, sorry, I'm too old to be an influencer.
I was going to say. Oh god!
Yeah. Too young to completely give up. Too old to be an influencer.
That's so much energy. I couldn't handle it.
Man. So during this period, here, I'll read through the whole thing of this.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay. So go for it.
In gardening, it's called pruning. A plant gets cut back, trimmed, made smaller, and in the process, it's made stronger. It may have seemed that we were pressing ahead and that our power was rising, but this is precisely when things seem to go awry. During this period, crisis hits. Usually that crisis occurs when we are in our early 40s as opposed to mid-30s. In any event, many of us experience being cut down by events that seem beyond our control, and in the process, we experience disappointment and a sense of failure. The most common of these disappointments are divorce, or the collapse of a business, or financial strife. Others suffer a health crisis of one kind or another. Whatever occurs, many of us experience life-altering setbacks and lose confidence in ourselves and in life. At this point, we can either embrace our limitations and live smaller lives, or begin again. We are challenged to start anew, to refine and rethink our ways, but to remain committed to our dreams. It's a bit fucking depressing.
It is, but I think that by the very nature of us having children when we were young, I think that we skipped ahead here. I think we've already gone through this like 7 years ago.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right.
And now we're like wherever the next stage is, which is probably quite nice and fun.
Soul searching and wonder.
Yep, see?
Yeah.
That's the podcast type.
That's the podcast, Soul Searching and Wonder. Is it too late to rename? And then after that is an ever-growing vision and understanding of life.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think we might be. Well, who knows? Who knows? We could get into our 40s and just had full midlife crisis. But
I just can't see it. I can't see it.
When we were younger men and we had a band, we did have a song called Quarter Life Crisis, which basically is exactly that.
Exactly
but
that.
At 25 instead of at 40. So yeah, maybe we've gone through.
Ahead. We skipped ahead.
Yeah.
I think. Maybe we have. It's funny, anecdotal. Fun for you in terms of the 7 years, which I've just remembered now that you brought it up. So, my grandfather is 88, still going.
Okay.
Still very independent.
Big Chuck.
Big Chuck, yeah. Still very independent, lives on his own, on a farm. You know, if somebody visits him every day and, you know, all sorts of things, but like in his head, he's very independent and on his own. But he firmly believes, even though there's multiple reasons not to, he firmly believes that he's going to die in a multiple of year of 7. So once he hit 84, from the age of 83 to 84, he was having a bit of a crisis of, that's it.
But now he's like, I got 3 years, baby.
They got to 84, and now he was like, well, I'm going to be going to 91 then, that's just the way it is. So he's like, and he thinks that's what happens to the people the males in our family, that's how it works. It's not how it worked historically. We have a whole family tree. Like maybe a quarter of them died in a multiple of 7, and it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough to say that that's a thing. But he's made
seventh of them.
He's decided it in his head.
1/7 have died in a multiple of 7. It's got to mean something.
I passed 35 there, so I'm grand for another 6 years. You know.
Oh god. I kind of love that though. I love those superstitions, and I kind of get on there as well, like the Bruce Lee thing. You know, Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee, and the fact that their family is supposed to have a curse on the men in their family, and I took a deep breath as if I was about to come out with something very, you know, sage-like.
I was in my head being like, I've caught Niall in his wheelhouse here. That's it.
Yeah.
Is that a conspiracy theory, or do the families believe it?
No, I don't think that counts as a conspiracy theory. That's just superstition. That's just it's a bit of hokum, but I kind of like a bit of hokum.
The same in some way?
No.
Not really, no.
No.
Some of them are. Some of them cross into both territories, I'd say.
I think sometimes there can be an element of belief, isn't it, in conspiracy theories where you're like, I want to believe this. But
literally, I want to believe is like the motto, isn't that?
But I think there's enough people in conspiracy theory circles who are open-minded skeptics, you know?
Oh yeah, and I feel like there actually isn't a big crossover. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Like you are much more into conspiracy theories than I am, and I don't mean that as in like you're crazy. I mean that as in like you research them and take time with them. And
that's okay.
And
you don't need to preface it. I get what you're saying,
but you're not nearly as airy fairy and like the world is full of wonder that I am.
Well, and I wish I was more.
I should really just fall into conspiracy theories quite easily and quickly, but I just be like, nah, that doesn't make sense.
I know.
Moving on.
I feel like a certain amount of it is down to like how much pseudo-scientific backing there is in it as well. Like if there are some things where you just got to set aside all precedent of anything that happens and just be like, this is something that we just don't understand as humans. Like that's in the spiritual.
That's right. I like those sort of things.
Yeah, you like that side of things. Whereas I like
I don't want an answer.
I like a little shred of something that I can just trace it back logically.
A wee thread you can pull.
Well, if this exists, then this, and then if this happens, then this. So logically, aliens. You know. Yeah. I like there to be some kind of thread that I can go, no, this is feasible that this could happen.
Well, there was 2 conspiracy theories that I seen this week, and I did just go, I'm moving on from this and not looking any further because it just sounds madness to me. And the first one was that
it's giving you pause already.
It's giving me pause already. So Liam Payne of One Direction fame, like very famously recently enough, like had some sort of drug induced issue and fell out a window, is my understanding.
I don't know much about this.
Me either.
I'm not a great One Direction fan.
But a great bunch of lads, I'm sure, and like I have nothing against them. And like their music was bland, but that wasn't exactly their fault. They weren't writing it; they were just singers, and like fair play to them. Like, they were only young when it started,
and they done very, very well. For
exactly, fair play to them.
And I always enjoyed what show was it on that they were on, X Factor or something. I can't remember, but
I'm sure it was X Factor,
something like that. But they came second. I think they were runner up, and whoever was the winner, it was like Ollie Murs or something.
Well, Ollie Murs is quite big now.
I know, but whoever was number one, whoever won it, and they said, "Oh, you know, it's whoever," and everybody was all clapping and cheering. Harry Styles leaned over to him and said, "You're going to get so much pussy, mate."
I didn't know that.
And obviously, it wasn't aired, like you couldn't see, but people were able to lip read and see it.
Exactly, they're just like horny teenagers pretty much at that point.
Like fucking 15 or 16. It was like, okay, fair enough.
Like this is like that One Direction got a load of hate the same way that Justin Bieber did. And I know you know that I was like I've been a Justin Bieber fan for like a lot longer than people would expect. Like that one album came out like 2015, I think it was. Like Sorry was on it and stuff. I thought that album was amazing, and everybody was still hating on him so hard. You don't care, I know, but
I'm not on it. Although I do feel really bad for him because I think he got fucking beasted by Diddy, like, for sure.
He's just
for
like,
sure. Allegedly, I don't know if I can say that in the internet. Allegedly,
like I can take a lot of slagging. Like it's how I've grown up, and how I will always be, because I like to give a bit, like some lighthearted slagging to my loved ones specifically. Yeah. But I don't think I could handle the amount of hate that Justin Bieber got over his lifetime from just random ass people, random old men when he was like 11, like telling him how much of a dick he is. Like it's awful. You can't like come out of that surviving properly, completely normal. You know,
the fact that he was a legitimate musician as well. Like he was discovered because he was putting stuff up
his
on
own
YouTube
stuff on YouTube. It wasn't
playing
like,
drums.
It wasn't like the X Factor.
Yeah. So I kind of I get what you mean. Although at the time, I'm sure I was like fucking little pop dickhead. Like,
everybody was, and I never got it because there's loads of little pop dickheads that I hate, but that just wasn't one of them.
I know. I didn't dislike him any more than anybody else. But
there was a big meme. It was one of like the biggest memes of the time was to hate Justin Bieber.
Yeah. And I don't think I cared that everybody hated him. I don't think I felt bad for him. I was just like, fuck him.
Yeah, move on with your life. But anyway, Liam Payne of One Direction fame. You know, he obviously, like, there was a whole thing. He fell out a window, I think, of like a balcony or whatever, at his hotel in like Brazil or something, somewhere Latin America, I'm sure, and died. And it was very sad, and everybody mourned and wept. And I was just looking up something related to that, and I came across a conspiracy theory that Liam Payne was murdered because he had information that would put Hillary Clinton in jail. And I was like, but why would Liam Payne have that information? And I didn't even try to look further into it. I just sort of silently laughed for about half an hour about it. And I kept going back to the one part where it said it and was like, yeah, I did read that.
You know what? I could totally, and this is why we're talking about in conspiracy theories, where there's the little one thread, the plausibility thread is what I like. Away. Because I can see that like in my head.
Liam Payne. He's not even the most famous of the One Direction boys. No.
But you just think of like, and he did quite well for himself after One Direction.
I did.
But you take that little thread of like, all the Diddy stuff and Epstein Island and all the elites that are kind of in a pedophile ring. And then you take it right back to these guys all being 15, 16 years old, being thrust into the limelight, being told, right, you got to do this and you're going to be super famous, becoming the biggest pop band in the planet, like as big as the Beatles were. That was like the way
they were a big
One Direction.
They were a big deal.
They were like mega stars.
They were.
You go, right, how do these just, a couple of guys from, the UK and Ireland, how did just a couple of them, they just won a competition. And then instead of just going into obscurity, they blew up and they mega stardom. And you start to think, right, well, were they at Diddy parties? Were they at Epstein Island? Were they passed around? Did fucking Clinton have a dip?
The thing is, you're saying, like, what you're saying doesn't make sense. And the one part of it that I have a problem with really is that, like, if there's a foolproof way to make a little boy band megastars, like that only makes the people involved more money, so they don't have to pass them around ditty parties for that to happen. Like that doesn't have to be a rite of passage here, sure.
Yes,
If there's a benefit to everybody involved around them anyway.
I know, but if you are someone, for example, like Diddy or like Epstein, and you have hundreds of millions in the bank or billions in the bank, and the whole world is lying at your feet.
But Simon Cowell has already got that, and he's the one that was in charge of this.
Yeah,
he's
but
the one
what's
that did
the
this.
next logical thing? If you already have everything anybody could ever want, you're just going to push for whatever the novelty is. What's more novel? What's more novel? And that's why you get people who are like really fucking depraved, and they're doing it because they already have everything else. Like anything else they could ever want is at their fingertips.
That's a good way to look at it,
So
actually. But
how else are they going to? What else are they going to strive for? When you're at the top of the mountain, where else can you go? You just go for whatever the next fucking thing is.
I'm not driven as a person. Like I only have to get like a 12th of the way up the mountain, and I'd be like, I'll just sleep here. I'm grand now. Like
I think a lot.
I wouldn't be going any further.
I think a lot of normal people are like that. But then, whenever you see people that are in the top echelon of society, particularly the people who didn't start there, like the people who made their way there from obscurity, I think you gotta have a screw loose. Like you gotta be a little bit. You gotta have that psychopathic trait where you're willing to put in 100 hours a week to try and destroy any competition that you have and try to get to the top. You know, like the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, like the most famous like artists and performers in the world, all the billionaires that you see, the biggest politicians in the world, the likes of Trump and stuff. Trump didn't need to become president. No, he just did it because they had nothing else to accomplish. So he's like, right, what else am I going to do? I'll become president. Like, you know, there are people that just, they want to achieve that level of status, and there's always something else that they're pushing for.
They have to push.
So that's why I don't trust, you know, the elites, because, you know, whenever you hear about all that pedophile rings and stuff, I go, well,
that makes sense in the context of what you're speaking of.
Yeah, you know, whenever you go, right, they could already have anything else that they ever wanted. And people say, but they have everything they want. Why would they do something so depraved?
You're saying that's why?
Destroy? Yeah, I think that's probably the reason, is because humans crave novelty. And especially, like, very intelligent people, like, who would be able to move up through society like that. You got to be intelligent to get that. Well, and a lot of intelligent, creative people crave novelty, you know. It's not like they wouldn't be happy doing the same thing day in, day out. And I think once you have everything, nothing is novel anymore. And then you try and beastly in pain, and then you get some stuff on it. The next thing you got to fuck them out a window. Like, I don't know either. Allegedly, I'm just saying. I can see the thread of plausibility. Is what I'm saying.
You see, and this again, this is the. I have, like I've said this before, I'm sure, even on the podcast, but like whatever in my head can be explained by incompetence. It's always incompetence in my head, and like because I can. Once I pull the threads that I've pulled in real life, like in businesses I've worked in, of like how something has happened, it always comes down to you can make up whole fanciful stories of like what happened, but it always comes down to incompetence. It's just like somebody just didn't think about something, and it's that simple. And it very rarely is anything more malicious than that.
What do you call that? Moore's law or Hooke's law or fucking something?
Not it's Moore's law. I'm pretty sure.
Hooke's law is about fucking springiness, isn't it?
Is it Cole's law?
No,
that was a joke.
Oh, coleslaw! Oh, you dirty bastard!
Sorry,
that's proper dad joke there. I went straight over my head. I was so busy thinking about Moore's law.
And you can get you in the moment. That's why I did it.
You could have just left that there. I'd have been like, oh yeah, maybe it is coleslaw.
Oh god! But the other conspiracy theory that I heard then was that this still makes me laugh too. And this was like a couple of days ago. It was a freshie. Is that kneecap are so for everybody who doesn't know who kneecap is, they're like from Belfast. They rap in Irish, the Irish language, and they recently were at Coachella. They put up a whole lot of pro-Palestine stuff, and people are angry about it. And now the new conspiracy theory is that they're agents of the UK government to give you that little bit of rebellion that you can cling on to, so you'll forget about other things. And like, I know that you like this already because of what I've said here.
I do.
But it's so far
In a lot of ways.
Like it's so convoluted is what I'm trying to say.
It is very far-fetched, and the fact that they are a couple of lads from West Belfast, like, you know, proper, you know, balls in the falls kind of
Balls in the falls.
like they're
I've never heard that before.
No, that's the big
Understand
statue.
the concept.
Big statue. There's a big statue in the Falls Road. That's like a big geodesic sphere inside another geodesic sphere, and it's on a roundabout, and they call it the Balls on the Falls.
Oh, okay. I did not know this.
No, but the Falls Road is a very Irish Republican area of West Belfast.
And for anybody who, again, Irish Republican is not the same as American Republican.
No, it's definitely not. But like, you know, so those guys are from a place where everybody is going to be very anti-British, anti-UK government.
And then some.
For them to be plants, not that it couldn't happen, but it is a little bit far-fetched, you know, my little string, my thread of plausibility doesn't connect one thing to the other.
Who's the person that you think is like, not you, but the person who thought this up, that they think that is employed by the UK government, who's classically incompetent, they can't figure things out, that has drilled up this idea of like, okay, so what we need to do is get 3 boys from West Belfast who speak Irish, teach them how to rap. Like, this is where it starts. Yeah. And somebody else went, that's an excellent idea. That's going to fix this problem.
But man, you think of half the ideas that get passed around big boardrooms, like Sharknado, the movie, but that started in a boardroom.
That's ironic. That's ironic. Like, that's the point of it.
I don't think it was.
I think it was.
I don't think it started as ironic. I think it started as Sharknado.
Like Cocaine Bear is the same example.
Well, surely. Cocaine Bear is a true story.
The way you said that. Like,
it is.
I know that it is, but I'm saying, like, they wouldn't have called it Cocaine Bear if it wasn't meant to be a little bit ironic. They would have given it a bit more of a name.
But like, it's very concise though. Cocaine Bear tells you exactly what you're in for. Yes. You know the kind of movie you're going to see.
It's a Ron Seal situation. Yeah, that's exactly what it says in the tin.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen it. I know a load of people who worked.
I haven't seen it either.
I know loads of people who worked on it because it was filmed in Ireland.
Was it?
Yeah.
All the people in my work talk about it. I just haven't watched it.
Oh, really?
It's funny.
Yeah,
and they're not from here.
No, I got a call to go down and work on the Winx saga, which is like a fucking TV show that Netflix made based on like the little fucking Brat dolls, you know, like the Brat dolls from back in the day.
I forgot about those. Yeah,
Winx doll, or no, sorry, it wasn't. It was a TV cartoon called the Winx Club or something like that.
I've never heard of this.
Anyway, they made a TV show about it. They made a couple of seasons of it, and that was made in the south of Ireland. But one of my friends, Owen, was working on it, and he called me to cover him because he was going to work on Cocaine Bear. He said it was a fucking shit show, like it was an absolute mess.
Well, that's what you get when you have cocaine and bears.
Well, this is it. But yeah, it was a bit of a mess. No, I don't want to sink Owen on it, you know, for saying that.
You name him and...
at least I haven't given any other, although there's only so many people who do special effects in Ireland. There's
called
like,
Owen.
Yeah. There's maybe like 40 of us on the whole island.
You can look him up on the credits. I think you don't need any more information at this point.
Alright. Sorry, Owen. Oh dear.
But it's just like, that's the part of it that I find, like, and don't get me wrong, okay, like, and we see movies and all sorts of things, and like, there are very, 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 very smart people in the world that could dream up the idea of like how to control people in a very specific way, like, but the ones that have always been successful, like, I hesitate to call Hitler successful, but to be fair, like, for quite a long time he had them in the palm of his hand, you know, and
for what he was looking to do.
Exactly, he did it.
Yeah.
And even Trump now,
we're not saying that it's good or bad, we're just saying he was successful in what he tried to do.
Well, it was definitely bad, I'm not saying but he was successful at being a bad guy, let's put it that way. And it's like Trump now and everything else, it's always so much simpler than being really, like, it's not about creating mad ideas and doubt and throwing in punk bands to rally against you so you're crazier.
Yeah,
it's really as simple as just like saying the right words and saying them over and over again, and people just like it's really always been that simple.
But sometimes it is also convoluted, and that and it comes out. And it's I got two things to say about it. The first is that whenever you're strong, it benefits you to appear weak, and whenever you're weak, it benefits you to appear strong.
Yep.
So whenever you are very competent, it's better to look like you're bumbling fucking idiots. So
Boris Johnson,
exactly. But there's a lot.
The king of incompetence.
Yeah, I actually think he was pretty incompetent at a lot of things. I don't know if that was.
I don't think there's been a person in history, and not even like in politics. I mean, in history, that just looks more bumbly than Boris Johnson. I've always and I have no care for any like anything to do with Boris Johnson, or anything he did. It's just that he always makes me laugh. Just the sight of him always made me laugh. Every time.
It gives Mr. Bean character vibes.
Exactly.
It's like you would imagine him to be as if someone is performing that character.
Exactly.
Yes.
It isn't like a real person. It's just like a it's like a cartoon bear.
Yeah. But again, he's got to have a bit of smarts under him, because he got the most powerful position in all of the UK. He's also a multi-millionaire, and he's like sold books, and
he can't be that bumbling.
No, and he's got like fucking 7 kids by like 4 women or something.
Well, that's not exactly a good thing. That can be attributed to bumbling at that point.
I'm not making judgments on morality or ethics. I'm just saying he's obviously got some kind of gift of the gab or
exactly
a massive cock or something. I don't know. I don't know what he's got, but he's got to have something.
I don't think they do any measuring before you get into Parliament.
They do it in Eton whenever you're leaving in your final year. That's it. Oh no, sorry, you're just going to be Chancellor of the Exchequer. You're not Prime Minister material.
Well, where were you going? What was the other thing then? Or did I already derail you from your first thing because I talked about Boris Johnson?
I need a little minute to think about what
when you're strong, you have to look weak. When you're weak, you have to look strong.
Oh yeah, but there is a lot of like Machiavellian goal. Obviously, Machiavelli was a good example. That there are a lot
standard.
Of yeah, he was the gold standard of like how they he wrote The Prince, didn't he? Although I think that was a satire, when he was talking about how people can rule in sneaky ways over other principalities, and whenever you're being an expansionist, if you want to like take over other places, how to get the people on side whenever you're there and all that kind of shit. Like he wrote a lot of that sort of shifty business stuff in the 1600s. I want to say he was alive, but also like in America, obviously I like a lot of my alien stuff,
of course,
but in terms of trying to discredit the different people, there was what's his name? I'll find his name out for you. But there was a guy whose job it basically was to spread disinformation about Area 51 and about UFOs and UFO sightings and crashes, and
that was his job. His
job was to just put out all of this misinformation that made UFO people sound like they were mental. So there was a load of like quite reasonable people asking reasonable questions about all of this UFO stuff and unidentified objects and things that are moving in ways that no aircrafts that we have are able to move. And then he comes out with all the mad bullshit and psychic and anal probes and like mutilated cows.
Well, I always wonder where the anal probes came from. Actually, go ahead, continue.
But so there was this guy, and he was just throwing out all of this rubbish out into the alien community, and people were just taking it and running with it. And then it ended up discrediting a lot of the UFO alien, search for extraterrestrial life kind of stuff.
That's interesting.
And that was his whole job.
Imagine that was your job.
And there's some.
It would be a pretty good job.
I know. But there's some talk that a lot of it was whenever they were developing all the stealth technology, the stealth bomber and stuff like that. And Lockheed Martin was doing a lot of the what do you call their skunk works stuff that they were doing. So a lot of it was to sort of cover up for that whenever they were doing a lot of testing of all of these new technologies, and they didn't want anybody to know about it. And also propaganda for other countries. You know, whenever you want other countries to think something about your capabilities, you either want to hide your capabilities or make them think that you've got more capabilities. Again, depending on if you're weak, you want to appear strong. If you're strong, you want to appear weak. But so there's a lot of bullshit like that gets sent out, and there's a lot of very high functioning people working in very clever clandestine ways to hide what they're actually doing, and that is part of the government. So while yes, I believe that a lot of governments are bumbling and inefficient in many ways that affect the people on the ground, I think if they have a secret they hide, they can fucking hide it.
I think that almost entirely lives in like military land, though. Like almost entirely lives in that land.
Well,
because it feels like in every country the military is like segregated entirely from the rest of the country. You know, like everything else, they just do their own thing, and they're just getting all the money that they want to have, and that's just the way it goes. Not here, not in Ireland.
Definitely, definitely not in Ireland.
In the superpowers, like in UK, US, I'm sure even like France and stuff are like that. But I hear what you're saying. Is what I'm trying to say.
I haven't sold you.
But you can't. It's really hard to sell me, and like I genuinely had a little like personal little chuckles and guffaws about both of those conspiracy theories I brought up.
Yeah.
As I said, being like, this is just mad. Like people are mad. Like people are just mad.
It is absolutely mad. Like the Liam Payne one sounds mad.
It is mad. There's nothing sound mad.
It sounds mad on paper. Like.
In practice, though. But yes, no, and like I just think it's just so there's so much going on that people are just clinging for answers wherever and making up their own answers, and that's like, and I get it, I understand it. It is what like most religions are like as well. It's just I need an answer for this question.
Yeah,
I just don't want the I don't want the answer most of the time. I've said this before. I don't even want to know if there's an answer to this question. Like, is there aliens? I like the idea that there might be, but there might not be, and that's okay too. That's as far as I want to go.
See, I definitely have that burning curiosity where I'm like, no, I want to know what's going on.
I have burning curiosity when there's some sort of tiny gossip that's happening in town that of people I don't even know. That's when I'm curious.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite.
The big picture stuff. I'm like, sure, it'll be grand.
Oh, no. I'm the opposite way around. People are telling me like, oh, did you hear such and such down there? And then they're off with this other one. Or and this person died because they were off there. And I'm like, it's fucking so what? Just because we got 7 billion more of them over there.
Because of who I am as a person, obviously, I did some Catholic radio stuff, and I'm the only like, Irish person that my people that I work with. I counted from Monday morning, right through until 11 o'clock today. 41 people brought up the Pope dying to me.
Oh yeah,
41 different people brought it up because they obviously had thought, he'd love to talk about that. Which is in its own way quite sweet. They're obviously not talking about the Pope dying to everybody, but like Nathan's going to want to know about that.
That's so bizarre. I had one person mention it to me, McCartney. And
not me.
No, not you. You're also McCartney. My other friend McCartney. And he was like, he sent me a picture of him having a pint of Guinness. And like, the Pope died, so I'm having a drink today. And I was like,
any excuse.
I know. Excuse. What? But like, he was talking about him like, the Pope, good man, the Pope, and all.
That's just what he would want. He'd want Darren to have a pint.
I was like, first of all, I don't give a fuck about the Pope. Like any shape, form, or fashion. Like my Catholicism went out the door many years ago.
He was a good Pope. I know that's a hard thing for you to understand or comprehend, but he was good people.
But is a good Pope a good person?
I think so in this regard, yes.
I'm not sure.
There was like John Paul II was like the classically class Pope. Everybody loved him, and he was like, I'm not saying he's John Paul II levels, but he was very much Everybody liked him. Do you know what I mean?
I think compared to Ratzinger, I think he was a easy act to follow, wasn't he?
It was, to be fair. Yeah.
He's pretty fucking useless. But yeah, I don't really know that much about what Pope Francis did. I did see a picture of him back before he was Pope wearing a heavy metal t-shirt. I don't know if that was AI or not.
You just don't know these days.
You can't trust anything you see.
Well,
but if he did, he gets some points for that.
Classically, like the whole time he was Pope, he would like wash people's feet as they came in to visit him, as opposed to have his feet woo, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. He was always very like, I'm not.
Yeah, but fucking Jesus did that. Like,
exactly.
You know.
But that thing,
if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, though. Yeah. But it's not like everybody was doing it.
I don't know.
The more Jesus involved, the better.
Yeah, I don't know if he gets bonus points.
The more Jesus-like behavior, the better in general, realistically.
Yeah, and to be honest, like if I went to visit the Pope and he was like, "Get your socks off," I'd feel a bit uncomfortable.
You would, because
I'd be like, I'm fine.
You're not going to go visit the Pope. It's not for you, Niall.
Thanks a million, but I had a shower earlier. I'm good.
But
especially in Italy when it's so warm,
exactly.
Your dogs are barking.
Your dogs are barking. You're going to need a wee wash, like.
No. I feel like I'd rather wash them myself.
You'd be embarrassed to take off your shoes.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to.
Like, don't want to smell my feet.
I wear thick socks. I wear really thick socks. Like I don't want to get into it.
I don't want to get into it.
Just keep my socks on. Wash them at home.
But like that, yeah. 41 people specifically sought me out to tell me that the Pope died. Obviously, I knew before any of these people had ever said anything. But like it was funny and sweet in its own way, you know, because people from all over the world and they're like. And some of them are even more Catholic than I am, so to speak, like the Philippines and stuff, and other parts of the world. But did I say about last week about the Easter holidays, about we get the hangover holiday?
Yeah, we get the Monday, and nobody else gets it. Yeah.
It was funny, they were all in work on Monday, and they were like, "Where's Nathan?" But my manager was like, "It's hangover holiday for Easter for Ireland."
I love that that's actually the consensus.
Well, I've made it that way.
Oh, yeah,
in my world, that's the consensus.
Yeah. But, no, it's like I went to visit the Vatican. Have you ever been to the Vatican?
I have not been to the Vatican, actually. I've been to Italy, but I haven't been to Rome.
Yeah, I went to the Vatican, I want to say it was 20. You know, it was around 20 or 21. And
why did you go to the Vatican?
Because I was there with my grandparents. And, and my grandfather's very religious.
That's all I knew.
He wanted to go visit. But before we went there, we did like a tour just outside the Vatican, just to, like still in Rome. I don't really know what the difference is. But
Vatican City is its own.
Yeah, and I know, but it's still like
it's
within
very
Rome.
Much inside Rome.
It's inside Rome, yeah. But so we were out. And we were
like Derry's inside Londonderry.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it. Well, get kneecap on the phone. Anyway, we were out and we were doing this tour, and at the end of the tour guide takes us to this little kind of it's just like a wasted space, you know, kind of scrubland. And points down, there was like a little ruin down there. He said on this ruin, it was like a doorway. It didn't lead anywhere, you know, it was all demolished, but the doorway was still standing. It had these two pillars made of like this red marble. And the guy said, "Oh, this is like Egyptian red marble. It's like the most expensive semi-precious stone. You know, instead of like precious stone, like semi-precious stone that you can get. Each one of these things is worth 13 million euro. Each pillar, a little kind of small-ish pillars." He said, "But no one will go near it because it's owned by the church, and if anybody touches it, the mafia will kill them." And we were like, "Oh, okay, that's a bit fucking mad." So then we go into the Vatican. I didn't really enjoy the Vatican. You kind of get led around like, you know, like cattle. You know, you're sort of in these little walkways. But the walkways at one point, and it's taking you past all of this priceless art, priceless statues, priceless everything the whole way. And then there was one room that you walk into the room in your little, you know, conga line. You sort of walk in, and then you do a 90-degree turn and straight out through another door. So there's not really supposed to be anything in this room of note. But in the corner of the room is this massive, it must have been like a bath or something, or like, you know, like a hot bath jacuzzi type of thing. Massive, it's got, you know, maybe 4 meters wide, thick big bathtub type of thing, made out of this Egyptian red marble, and like
beautiful.
thick,
Sounds amazing.
like thick. The walls were about a foot thick on it, so it must have been worth a couple of 100 million.
Yeah,
just for this
that
thing.
Yeah,
and it was just lying, gathering dust in the corner of this room. Like nobody, not a plaque, nothing to even point out.
it's just
it's
there.
only for the fact that we had just seen this stuff outside. That the pillars were 13 million each. And then looked at this and went, holy fuck, that thing's worth like hundreds of millions.
Yep.
Like more than me and my entire family have ever made in like the last 1,000 years. You know, and that we probably ever will make.
Yep.
It's just lying gathering dust in the corner of this room in the Vatican.
I'll never get
it. And this is just all the stuff that's out on display. That's not all the stuff that's down below the Vatican and all their vaults. Like when you think of the amount of wealth that they have, and then they're talking about, you know, like poverty or hunger, world hunger. The Vatican could cure poverty and world hunger like that. It's not a doubt in my mind. If they wanted to, they could do it. And then still, every time you go out in the church, they send a little fucking wicker basket.
Well, that's why they have all that money.
All we can afford is this little fucking piece of wicker. Like, you know,
you're saying
give us what you
should be giving out some sort of
no, I'm saying they're
acting. Solid gold basket.
They're acting. It's an act. They're like, you know, the vow of poverty. The vow of poverty. Get the fuck out of here. The vow of poverty. So anyway, whenever I visited the Vatican, that was the last nail in the coffin of my Christianity. I went, this is a racket. It's a racket.
And this is where you fall down. Is exactly the same again. Why I haven't is that you're talking about facts and scientific figures and thoughts. I'm just all about vibes.
Catholics have vibes, you know. You're wrong. You go into a Catholic church.
Like
Catholic church has vibes.
It's impossible not to get through it. Like and be like, this is actually class. Like the buildings, all the crack, the singing,
the big choirs, you know, the big evil sounding
organs
choirs
and shit. Man, you can't take me away from it. You probably make Catholicism when I call dead hands.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you look at the other Christian faiths and you go in or you see like in America, they got all people be happy.
That's good. Like, I love that too.
Get all the swing.
There's a load of like Jamaican and stuff too. They have some awesome like church services and stuff. Like, and it's good crack, and I love that. I have no problem with that.
It doesn't have the vibe. It doesn't have that.
It has
cosmic
a vibe. The problem I have is where it's like. No vibe, which is even like American Catholics have very little vibe going on. They're a little weird. They're different from normal Catholics.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on what you expect from religion. If you grew up with that and religion is like this really happy, nice, oh God is providing for us. Whereas we got the fire and brimstone edition. We got like
you're going
to burn in hell.
Way. Yeah. You're gonna burn in hell, but this is good crack.
Yeah, we got the Dark Souls edition of Christianity, where it's like,
but at least there were vibes. Like, you know, there's certain
stained glass windows, the Gothic arches.
But imagine getting all that, but going to like the equivalent of like a gym hall. Do you know what I mean? Where like a lot of churches are, you know, they're just like nondescript buildings.
Although a lot of modern chapels are quite underwhelming as well.
They still put some effort into it. They put some effort into it.
But they go very modernist these days. They got to lean under the old school cathedral vibe.
We're spoiled with like old churches and old chapels here and across the whole of Europe. Never mind Ireland. You know, in Italy, when I was in Italy, I went to that church. Have you ever been? It was in Milan.
I've only been to Rome.
There's a chapel in there where inside it there's literally like a whole room made of bones, like literal skulls and crossbones.
See, that's what I mean. That's vibes.
It's strong vibes.
That's strong vibes. And that's the one thing that I do like about it. They got vibes. They got the cool clothes. They got the cool house.
Yep.
But
I'm just laughing at that. How we've strayed so far from 7 years.
I know. but it's just not. It's not enough to make me believe that it's anything other than an organized gang.
Give it another 7 years, man. You don't know what you're going to be like.
That's true. Very true. Well, we leave it there anyway. I think that's a good end point. Yeah, you wrapped that up nicely.
Well,
All right.